Good morning.
Good morning.
Y'all doing okay?
Hi guys.
Hello.
Hey, how are you, Mr. P?
I'm well. How are you?
Good.
I'm glad everyone else is hopefully good. Hmm. I'm just logging into Pear Deck. There's Noah's. All right. LOPRZ is the code.
So Mr. P,
Yes, sir.
we're doing a game kit after this, correct?
Yes.
Cool.
Yep. Move this over here. Are you in there, Lincoln?
Hello.
Hello, Fred.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm on my PC doing Zoom today.
Well, I knew it was a different login name.
Yeah.
I knew you were on something different because it was spelled with a lowercase letter.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody have any questions about the Google Classroom? Any of the classroom assignments on Google Classroom? Friday would have been field day. Last Friday would have been. All those things come up on the calendar and you're like, wishing we were having regular time.
My sister is doing field day virtually.
Oh, are they?
Yeah.
How are they doing that?
I don't know exactly how, but she just said they're going to be doing that. I'm going to figure it out eventually once they start it.
That's interesting. Okay, LOPRZ is the code. I'm about to launch it in just a second.
Mr. P,
Yes, Chloe.
didn't restaurants and stuff open today? Like for half capacity or something like that?
Yes, that's correct. So you can go to some places with half full, yeah. Which seems like such a change, doesn't it? For being locked down for so long. I wonder if very many people will go. You always wonder.
Oh, I was like driving around the other day, and there are like a lot of people out.
Yeah.
Yeah, people actually are going to restaurants.
Well, they weren't allowed to sit there. They had to just get it and take it, pick it up, like curbside.
Yeah, but I even see like for the places that are allowed to be open, I've even seen people inside, like sitting down and eating.
They weren't supposed to be unless you were in Mount Juliet. They could, because that's Wilson County or Franklin, Williamson County. So the counties around us, they opened up like May 1st or somewhere back there.
Why are they not taking enough precautions to keep everybody safe?
I don't know. It doesn't make sense, does it?
I know they think people need money, but then can't they just send out another one of those stimulus checks? Because they have the ability to do so. You'd think, right?
Yeah. So what's filling your bucket this Monday morning? I'm seeing lots of people saying they're pets. And I agree with that. They definitely do, don't they? Can't read what that says. Anybody want to share something they did fun over the weekend? Or Mother's Day, something?
I can.
Okay, thank you, Chloe.
So for Mother's Day last year is kind of like I started this last year, so I like make breakfast and then I bring it up for my mom while she's in bed, like
Awesome. And you did
breakfast in bed.
it, so you did it this year
Yeah,
as well?
and then we
And then,
we walked our dog like for a long walk.
yeah. And it was a beautiful day. It was a beautiful day to do that, right? Izzy,
Yeah.
your hand is up.
Yeah, so I played Minecraft for about like 5 hours today.
Oh, wow. Are you
yeah,
going to do some more after this?
Yes.
Yeah. Figured.
me and my mom cooked a pizza.
Homemade pizza, that's always a good thing.
Mhm.
Yesterday,
Most
The
of it?
quarantine.
Did you eat most of it?
You said who? You said what?
Did you eat most of it?
No,
Or is there some left?
no. Cause we had to. What's it called? We ate like for lunch and dinner.
Yep. And
yesterday, me and my sister. Today, me and my sister, we made strawberry cheesecake stuffed French toast for Mother's Day.
ooh, that sounds good. I saw your picture, your mom posted your picture on Insta, I think it was. Hey, Josie, your hand's up. What'd you do?
So since my mom started doing keto, I made her a keto cake,
Yeah.
and then my dad got her a new bike. I don't know why, but he just got her a new bike, and then we went.
A new bike is great. That's a great gift. And this is the time of year that you can get to ride it a lot because the weather is not freezing cold, although it's been chilly for May, hadn't it? Josie, you had, yeah, I'll lower your hand. Anybody else want to share? Anybody else? All right, if you'll look on the screen, there are two questions we talked about on Friday. What makes something a statistical question and what makes something not a statistical question. If you'll mark on the screen, which one is statistical and which one is not, and then we'll have somebody tell us why. Yes, Chloe, watermelon is the best thing ever. That's correct. What makes the first one a statistical question and the last one, the B, not a statistical question?
The reason why is because A, you gather multiple sets of data in order to answer the question, but B only gives, first of all, does not answer with a number, and second of all, does not have multiple sets of data.
Correct. So the first question is a question where there will be multiple answers. Therefore, you can have statistics because the whole point of statistics is you've got numbers to analyze. So statistics are numbers, and A statistical question would have numbers, not number, or not yes and no. So do you like watermelons? Although that's a great question, it's not statistical because you're not going to have data besides yes and no. And that question is only asking one answer, that person. But the first question is asking for lots of students to say whether or not they like watermelons. And so then you could do something with that. So remember, statistical questions, multiple and varying number answers, not just one answer. And so when you have statistical questions, you get statistics from it or numbers. And there are 3 ways that you can look at the numbers to talk about something about them. If you could write on this screen, what's another name for this term? And give me a place where this is used all the time. Where's a place we do this? That affects you.
It worked.
Good. All right, so I've got up on the screen this, and this is Pramita, I believe. And Pramita, you're saying that another word for mean is average, and that's exactly right. It's the math word. I don't know why we have 2 words for this, but we do. But mean is the average, and we see that being used all the time in your grades on report cards or grades made up of sub projects in a final project, but you average grades because you want to know what is the overall, what's that word is the question. What is the word that, that we're looking for? What is the idea of why we're getting an average? What does anybody remember that word on Friday? If you do, you could just say it out loud. If anybody remembers. All right, so it's central tendency is the word we're looking for. It's when you're looking to see if you've got a list of numbers, where is the middle of those numbers? And with an average, you're going to do that by literally looking at your list of numbers, and I'm trying to grab my annotator here. So let's say this is the number of numbers in one response, and there are this many in the second response, and there are this many in the third response, and there are this many in the fourth response. All right. And let's say here's the, let me undo that one. Hang on just a second. And let's say there's the fifth response. You're literally wanting to see how could I take those numbers of numbers, like I'm going to say this number was 4, and this one, the response, there were 5. Why is that doing that? And another one with 4, and then this one had 6, and this one had 6. All right, so y'all can look at that and know that all that's going to equal 5, right? When you do the result of that. So do you see there's kind of a pattern? Because isn't the difference in that the middle of 4 and 6 5? So what I mean by that is if I take this 6 and this 4, they make 5 when you average them together. And if I take this 6 and this 4, they also make another 5. that 4, sorry, which are going to make 5. Let me undo that. All right. But there's another way to think about it. I don't think I said this on Friday, but you literally are thinking about, could I cut off this part right here? And could I cut off this one right here? And could I literally move them over to here and over to here? So that then when I'm done, all of them are going to literally come across at the same height. So you can see that these 2 extras could fit down here where these 2 are below, right? So that's literally what averaging is doing, is it's taking all the numbers and it's trying to find, if I take the taller numbers and I put them down in the shorter amounts, to find the place where they're all going to level out at the same. Now, does that always have to be a whole number? Absolutely not. It might not be a whole number. It could be a decimal. But again, all you do to get the average is you take all the numbers, you add them together. If I add 4 plus 5 plus 4, that's 13 plus 12. When I add those 2 together is 25, and 25 divided by 5 numbers is 5. So that's how we know that the average of those 5 numbers would be 5. So that's one way to get the measure of center or central tendency. If I say measures of center or central tendency, they both mean the same thing. It's meaning what's kind of the middle of all your data. All right, and we talked about that, but I'm just going on to review it from Friday. All right, on here we have the median. If you could remind me on the screen, what is the median's process? What's the process of getting the median of a set of numbers? And there's an example on the slide there.
What you do first is you line up all the numbers in order, and then if there's an odd number, if there's an odd amount of amounts really, then you select the middle one, and that's the median. However, if it's an even amount of values, then you take the middle 2 and find the mean of them.
Right. And does the number that's the median have to literally be one of the numbers in the set?
No.
No, it does not. So in this particular case, the number that's the exact middle number is that 5, because there's 3 on this side, there's 3 on this side, and they have to be in order. No, they can be in order from the largest to smallest or smallest to largest. Either way is okay, but they have to, they have to be in order. Now, let's say that I added another number, and let's say that there was also a, a 9, all right? And with that 9 being placed on there, now I don't have an odd number, I have an even number. So in this case, I'm going to take the 2 in the middle, which would be these 2, and I go to the middle of them. Well, they happen to be the same thing, so then that's easy, it's 5. But let's say this one was 5 and this one was 6, then I would literally get the middle of the 2 of them, and whatever that middle would be, that would become the median. If there are 2, all right? So a median is there for that reason. Now, you may be like, when I learned about those, I thought, what does that matter? Because just average it, okay? There are reasons that this could be a good use of central tendency, and we'll talk about that. Then quickly, there's the mode. And remember that modes are the numbers that occur most often. You could have no mode. You could have one mode, one number occurs the most. In this case, you have 2 numbers occurring the most. You could have 3 that occur the most. So you can have one mode, no mode, or multiple modes when you're talking about mode. And then last but not least, there's range. Range is not a measure of center. It's just the measure of the lowest to the highest. And I think I mentioned on Friday that that's going to be important when you're talking about looking at quartiles or quintiles. When you're looking at sections of the data, and that's you do that when you have a large amount of data. that you want to look and say, well, what's the stuff that's in the bottom part, and what are the numbers that are in the top part? So that's what range's job is. Okay, so here is and we're going to draw on this one. So here is an actual real set of data that Dr. Parsons grabbed this from the internet last week. And it's actually the temperatures that occurred for May 6th for the last 10 years. So if you'll take a moment and look at that, and you'll notice at the bottom, she's already given you the minimum and the maximum, and it's the low and high temperature of the day in 10 different years. It's actually 11 years worth. So if you will tell me what else is important about that data that we might want to know. So on the screen, if you'll tell me what else would be important about that set of data. So several people are saying that we already have the average. We do. And we already have the maximum and the minimum, right? Because we know that on May 6th, that the lowest temperature we find for the low was a 41, and the warmest low temperature during those 11 years is a 64. And then on the highs, we noticed that this year on May 6th was the lowest afternoon temperature of 61, but then there was a year when it was 91 on that day, right? So we have the minimum and maximum. Somebody else said, well, what about the range? Well, that's the minimum and maximum, right? The range is the minimum and maximum of the day. So in other words, the low temperatures range from 41 to 64, which, do you notice that in 2012, the low temperature that day was warmer than it was this year for the high on that day? And then we also noticed that the high temperatures have a range from 91 all the way down to 61. So that's 30 degrees. What's the range between the lows? Is it as large of a range? And the answer is no, it's 23, right? So what we could say is, one thing is that we noticed the high temperatures over those 11 years fluctuated more than the low temperatures. I'm looking to see, did anybody talk about thinking about the mode? Yeah, somebody mentioned the mode. Do we have a mode of the low temperatures? Is there a mode? Well, we'd have to put them in order first to see, but we could kind of look at it and see if we could find one. Does anybody see a mode for the low?
Yes.
What is it?
I see 50. I see two 50s.
Okay, so that means that for the lows, there is a mode of 50. Is there a mode in the highs?
Yes.
What's that?
87.
Yeah, 2 years in a row, it was 87 degrees. But look at those 2 days. One year it came from 49, and the other year it came from 59. So there was a smaller amount of temperature rise in 2015 than there was in 2014, right? Okay, which year has the biggest change from low to high? Which year would have the biggest change from low to high? So 2012, it went up 22 degrees. What about that year it hit 91? That's 25 degrees difference, right?
Yes.
Okay, is there anything that's bigger than 25 degrees? What about 2019? It went up 30.
That's 30.
Yeah, 30 degrees that day. What about 2017? Not quite 30, right?
10.
Yeah, not quite 30.
10.
All right, so that's something you could think about. Now let me ask you this. Would there ever be a reason to think about the median temperature instead of the average? Let's just look at the high. Just look at the high temperatures for a second. Is there any reason that I might want to use the median temperature for May 6th instead of the average? The average for May 6th is 77.5 degrees, 77.6, right? Would there be, and just right on the screen, yes or no? Do you think there might be a reason to use the median? And if you say no, that's fine too. Would there ever be a reason to possibly think about the median temperature instead of the average temperature? Okay, Josie, you say yes. There might be a reason. Nathaniel saying yes. Kylie, yes. Angelo's thinking there might be a reason. So is Chloe. And there could be a reason. We'll talk about that. Okay, so here's when we're going to talk about that. Okay, I want you on this screen to tell me what is this person's average. So this person made 100, another 100, a 99, another 99. That's great so far, right? Another 100, another 100, and then they got a 0 because they were talking during the test. All right. So what is their average? So go ahead on the screen and tell me what is their average, and then tell me what is the mean. That's the average. Tell me what's the median and the mode. So answer the question on the screen. What's the mean? What's the median? And what's the mode? And we know the range is 99 points because they went from, 100 points. They went from 100 to a 0.
Wait, Mr. P. So, since it has the 0, would you count the 0 as a number?
Okay, great question. You absolutely count that number because that's one of their scores because they got 0. And doesn't the 0 average into your grade?
Yeah.
Yeah, because you don't want to get a 0 because it's going to mess up your grade, right? So you're great to ask that question. So the answer is yes, definitely it counts. So I'm going to divide by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, not 6. I'm going to divide by 7. Now, would there be a situation where a 0 would not be averaged? Depend on what you're doing with it. Like if you got no response from somebody about something, maybe you're only going to talk about the ones you did get responses from. But that's not this situation. This situation, those are actually scores you've earned. So is it true that the high score of 100 is also the median?
Yes.
Yep. Is 100 also the mode? Yes. But if I run the average, it is not, correct? Would someone tell me what happens when I get the average? What is the average or the mean?
Mr. P.
Yes.
The average I got was 84.
Okay, can you tell me where you got that? How you got that, excuse me? Here yours is.
So you add up the 400, 588 divided by 7.
right?
And that should equal 84,
Okay.
if my math is correct.
So this person, so I want you to notice, I'm going to put a box around this. Okay, so this was the scores this person made on tests. Now,
Yes.
at the beginning of the semester, they have 100 average. They still have a 99 point something, still have a 99 point something, still have a 99 point something. They still have a 99 point something average. And on the very last test, they got caught talking and got given a 0. What's going to be on the report card? 100 or a 99? Absolutely not. They're going to have an 84, a C. They're going
The
to get.
reason why is because it's an outlier. It's completely different from all the other numbers, which would completely wreck the average.
Okay, so that 0 does not fit what the rest of the numbers look like. And Graham's right. That 0 becomes an outlier. So in other words, this person was performing at almost perfect percentage on all tests, and then there's one time they didn't. And with the way grades are done, they're always the average or the mean. You're going to get a C, even though is a C truly indicative of the ability this student had?
No.
No, but that's the rule, right? So
Yeah.
would there be another better argument? Would there be a better argument of some other mode of central tendency that would be a better indicator of this person's grades or ability?
Mr. P,
Yes.
Mr. An 85 would be a B. It'll be an 84 and below. There'll be a C.
An 84 is a C. Yes.
Yeah, I'm saying an 85 would be a B, not a C.
Right. But it's the average just says it's 84. Is it 84?
No, Mr. P. Graham said he got 588 and divided it, but it was 598.
Okay.
So
So,
I got 85.
Oh, right, because of the round up. Because
okay.
Of the,
So
yeah,
let's
you're
say
right.
it's a B. Okay, let's say it's a B. It's almost a C, right? Is that an accurate representation of the numbers? Well, you would argue, well, they got the 0 and that's what they earned. That's true. But is it really looking at the way the numbers have been behaving before that? So let's just look at this though. Is it really the same as what you get when you look at this part? It's not, is it?
No.
Because that last thing is what Graham said. That is an outlier. It doesn't fit with everything else. Now, let's say they also made a 29 or they made a 51, and they had a 72. Would that 0 then be an outlier? No, because it's not that one weird number sticking out by itself, because they didn't make all these other numbers in one little spot. So like if I were plotting their numbers on a number line, say this is my number line, right? I had a number line thing. Hang on. I've got a literal number line. Okay, so here's my number line. Think about where all of their dots would be. They'd have a dot here, 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 and then one down at this end, right? And that number that's way down there at the end doesn't fit with the rest. Okay, so that's an outlier. So that's why there are other modes of central tendency, because there are times when they better tell the story. So the story is you're always going to get your average. So if you make a 0, it's going to screw your average up. But could you argue to your parent, I got a B, but look at my grades. My mode is 100. My median is 100. So you can make the argument that I'm doing way better than this. It's not going to get you out of trouble for getting a 0, but it would show you some other things about the numbers. One more thing, and then we'll stop right here for today. So let's say you're in the Olympics. Do you all know that in some of the events, the judges' scores, they take the top judge score and the bottom judge's score and they throw them out and they only average all the other scores? Why do you think they do that? Would someone like to share what they think is the reason?
To toss out the outliers to get a more accurate answer.
Okay, so let's say the judges scored them 8, 8, 7, 9, 8, 9, 7. There's no outlier there, is there? The answer is no, there's not, but that's their rule. And the reason they do that is because they want to take out bias. So let's say that the judge is an ally to that country and they inflate their score because of the country. Or let's say that another judge doesn't like that country and they make them lower than maybe they should have been. So they always throw out the top and bottom score just to be safe so that they don't have a judge that's being biased or creating an outlier to the data. And they don't do that with all events, but I know they do it with like figure skating and some of the others, but not all of them, but they should, right? Do you agree that'd be a good idea?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a great idea if they did that. So you may not know this too, but a lot of college professors, when you take a college class, they're going to always give you one drop grade. Has anybody ever heard of a drop grade? A drop grade is like if those were your scores, the professor would drop that low score of 0 and you get a 99 on your grades. And in Infinite Campus, there is a way that the program will allow you to drop the lowest score. We're not allowed to, but that is in the program. So there are places where the teacher's allowed to drop the lowest score. And if I were allowed to do it, I would do that as just a general rule because everybody can have an off day and you don't want that one off day. Now, let's say you have lots of low grades. Well, that drop score doesn't mean you just had one off day, right? But these scores clearly indicate that 0 doesn't belong with those numbers. There's something about that that's different, and it's called an outlier in this case. So tomorrow we're going to talk more about why outliers are important and how is it that you know when something is an outlier. There is a mathematical way to know if something is an outlier, and it has to be that it's so much % away from the other numbers. And that's not really the important thing here. It's just, does it really, that one number really stick out way far away from the other numbers? And we'll talk a little bit about outliers tomorrow. And then other ways that a median or a mode could be a useful tool in getting central tendency. So again, quick review. Mean is the most common way that we get measure of center or central tendency. Mode and median are also two ways to do it. And there are times when those ways of getting the center of the numbers would be more beneficial than an average would be. So it's about looking at all three numbers and then looking to see what tells the story the best way, right? It's not about manipulating the numbers. It's about which one tells a better picture of what truly is happening with the numbers, right? So yeah, okay. So that's it for today. If you have any questions, always please feel free to text me. And if I need to FaceTime you, I can do that. And then I will close this out and then we'll come back on with GimKit in just a moment, okay? Anybody got a question about anything? Anybody? Exponent, you have a question? Where'd he go? He's not even there. He's dropped off. Okay. See you guys for GimKit.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Okay, see you. Bye.